So when you think of Franklin D. Roosevelt, you probably picture a quintessential New Yorker, right? Well, what if I told you that some of his most transformative policies were actually born from a personal tragedy, one that led him to Georgia? Yeah, Georgia. This is the incredible story of how one man's search for healing ended up reshaping an entire nation.
So, how does something like that even happen? How does a personal health crisis completely reshape America? Let's dive right in. We're going to see how one man's desperate search for a cure in this little town in Georgia actually sparked a groundbreaking plan for national recovery, right when the country needed it most.
All right, so our story doesn't start in the White House or some government building in Washington, D.C. No, it starts with a personal crisis. A truly devastating blow that hit Roosevelt right in the prime of his life, and honestly, it changed the entire course of his future.
Okay, so this timeline really lays out the dramatic turn of events. In 1913, FDR's in Georgia for some U.S. Navy business. Pretty standard stuff. But then, 8 years later, in 1921, his whole world is shattered. He's diagnosed with polio. Then, just a few years after that, he hears a rumor about these special healing waters down in Warm Springs, Georgia. You have to imagine he was chasing what probably felt like his last hope, a miracle.
And we really can't overstate how serious this was. Polio. It's a disease that attacks the central nervous system and can cause paralysis. So here's FDR, a rising political star at just 39 years old, and he's suddenly facing the very real possibility of never walking again. This wasn't just a physical battle, it threatened to end his public life entirely. And that personal struggle is the key to understanding everything that came next.
So in search of treatment, Roosevelt makes his way to this small community called Warm Springs. And what started as a quest for his own physical healing, well, it blossomed into this deep, years-long relationship with the town and really the entire state of Georgia.
Get this, more than 40. That is how many times FDR traveled to Georgia. Over 40 times. This clearly wasn't just some casual vacation spot for him. It became his second home. That number alone shows you the profound devotion he had to the state.
And you know what? The connection wasn't a one-way street. The people of Georgia totally embraced him. Just think about that for a second. A Northern Democrat finding a new home in the Deep South. They saw his struggle, they saw his resilience, and they rallied behind him. They supported their adopted son all the way to the White House.
He even cemented this bond by building a home there in Warm Springs. And here's the kicker. The little White House, as it came to be known, was the only home FDR ever built for himself. It wasn't some grand family estate he inherited. It was his personal retreat, a place for quiet reflection and a symbol of his deep connection to the land and its people.
Okay, so this is where things get really, really interesting. His time in Georgia didn't just stay personal. It had huge consequences. It directly shaped his political philosophy and, eventually, his policies as President of the United States.
You see, while he was in Warm Springs for his health, he wasn't just isolated. He was an observer. He traveled the countryside, he talked to people, and he saw the harsh reality of rural life. He saw families struggling, farms failing, a kind of poverty that just left a permanent mark on him.
And this right here, this is the absolute core of our story. You can draw a straight line from the suffering he saw in Georgia, the widespread poverty, the lack of electricity, the struggling farms, to the actions he took as president. The local problems he witnessed became the national problems he was determined to solve with the New Deal.
I mean, just look at some of these programs. They weren't abstract ideas cooked up in an office. The struggling farmers he met in Georgia, he created the Agricultural Adjustment Administration, the AAA for them. The fact that most rural homes didn't even have electricity, that led directly to the Rural Electrification Administration, the REA, born from his experience seeing a region where power was a luxury.
But this connection created a legacy that went far beyond just politics. It's a legacy of healing, one that actually endures to this very day in Warm Springs.
Way back in 1927, before he was even president, his vision led to the creation of the Georgia Warm Springs Foundation. He wanted a place for his fellow polios, as he called them, to get help. That facility evolved, and today it's known as the Roosevelt Warm Springs Rehabilitation Center. It continues the mission, helping people with everything from the effects of polio to stroke and spinal cord injuries. His personal quest created a haven for countless others.
And in a very poignant final chapter, it was right there, in his beloved little white house, the very place that had given him so much hope and inspiration, that his incredible life came to an end in 1945.
This quote just captures everything, doesn't it?
It says, Georgians were plunged into gloom by the death of its literal patron saint. They didn't just lose a president, they lost one of their own. The sense of loss was immense, and it's a real testament to the genuine bond he'd forged with the state that adopted him.
So, the crucial takeaway here is that behind these grand national policies, there are often deeply personal stories. FDR's time in Georgia is such a powerful reminder that real leadership can be forged not in conference rooms, but in quiet moments of struggle and observation. And it leaves us with a question for our own time. What personal experiences are shaping the policies and the leaders of today?